Okay, so I'm going to talk about the removal slash vaulting of content in Destiny 2 and give my thoughts. Now, first I just want to say that my channel is not centered around Destiny 2 at all, but the last few Destiny 2 videos I made got a lot of attention considering the size of the channel, so I'm probably going to make one or two more videos talking about Destiny 2 to talk about some of the things that have been on my mind for a really long time. When it comes to the removal of content, though, I think there are a few things that need to be taken into consideration, and is the content being paid for, and what are the expectations the consumer has for the content that they're purchasing. And then you have to look at the content in the context of how many people are participating in it, and what content is going to take its place when it's removed. So let's start with, is the content being paid for? And in Destiny 2's case, it is. But you also need the context of the consumer expectations. So I think most people would agree that when paying for seasonal content, it's expected that the content you're paying for is going to fall out of relevance when the next season comes out. I think that's a reasonable expectation, and the price you're paying tends to match with seasons being mostly inexpensive in the short term. The problem is that Bungie also sells fully priced DLC, and also that Destiny 2 was not originally free to play. So I can say with 100% certainty that when buying Destiny 2 and its first 3 DLCs, everyone was under the assumption that everything they paid for would be a permanent part of the game. I was one of these people. Now, seasons were also being released, but they looked pretty different from how they are currently. There wasn't a battle pass, they didn't even have the seasonal artifact. All that stuff was added with the Season of the Undying after Destiny 2 went free to play. The first 3 seasons were more like DLCs than actual seasons, and 2 of the 3 had their own raid. Season of the Forge and Season of Opulence added Scourge of the Past and Crown of Sorrow. Structurally, these were just like DLCs, just much smaller. And I think most people who bought the annual pass or the seasons independently had the expectation that the content in these seasons would very quickly become outdated when the next season released in favor of the new season activity. Now, I'm sure there were still a lot of people who thought this seasonal content would be permanent because of its DLC-like structure, and the fact that they even had raids, I'm sure, only added to that. Now, Bungie was smart in how they went about removing content, because what they did after these 3 seasons were released was make all the DLC going forward standalone, and they made base Destiny 2 and the first 2 DLCs free to play, and they made all 3 seasons free for everyone who bought Forsaken. And this was all done to pave the way for them to start removing content. With the release of Beyond Light, they removed the base campaign from Destiny 2, the first 2 DLCs, and the content from the first 3 seasons. So this is why I, as well as a lot of other people, were upset, and this is why I said that paid content and the expectation for it is so important, because everyone who paid for that content felt robbed. At least I certainly did. Now everybody knows what to expect, and the problem of feeling robbed when things get removed isn't an issue anymore. Would people still prefer if things they paid for didn't get removed? Yes, absolutely, but it's within the expectations now. The next issue with the removal of content was that a majority of the player base was still participating in that content with regards to the strikes and Crucible maps. Now, Bungie removed about half of the content in the game, and what we got in return was not enough to make up for the content that was removed. Beyond Light added very little, and the seasonal content didn't do much to alleviate the lack of content. It certainly helped to keep people engaged, but this is where the problem of the actual quality of content comes into play. If the content that Beyond Light and the seasonal content added was more fun and rewarding than the content that was removed by a significant amount, I think less people would have been upset, myself included. I think the removal of content will always be upsetting for one reason or the other, but the main one is going to be money. And Bungie is still selling fully priced DLCs, which only hurts the situation, and I don't know why anyone still buys the DLCs, even though it should be completely obvious by this point in time that what you are paying for can be removed whenever Bungie feels the need to, and it's highly likely that what replaces it won't make up for it. I'm curious to know if people feel like Witch Queen makes up for the removal of content from Forsaken, having not played it myself, but I'll end it with this. The removal of content isn't inherently bad as long as any purchases made by the consumer are made with the expectation that what they're buying can be removed, and the price of the content should reflect that. Anyways, that's everything that I wanted to say.